Hitler actually has nothing to do with today's video. I just couldn't come up with a good hook. I'm sorry, you know how hard it is to come up with new ideas every single day? I just can't, I'm not that creative. Today, we have two absolutely amazing peak efficiency mobility exercises. If you can take both of these to their final form, I can guarantee you are pretty much taking care of 90% of all of your body's mobility requirements. So if you're ready, let's go and have some fun. Now, if you're starting out with pretty bad mobility, I would highly advise you to get a yoga block or a book or anything that will help you work on the first level. While it is not a necessity, it'll make things so much easier. Level number one of our progression will be the classic pigeon pose. Now, some people will already have difficulty getting into this position, be it for lack of hip mobility or bad spinal mobility. And for that reason only, we're gonna grab ourselves this block, bring your left foot into one line with your right knee, hands down to the ground, start lowering into external rotation in your hip joint. And now this is where we use the block. Depending on how far down you can go, you're gonna lower your knee until you are in full contact and can relax into this position. And now comes the really important part. We're not just gonna stay here. We wanna actively drive our pelvis down and extend our spine by flexing our spinal erectors and our glutes, pushing down actively as much as we can. And over time, once we have built all the necessary flexibility around our hip joint, we can start removing this and doing the same thing with our leg in complete contact with the ground. Bring both hands down and start driving your pelvis towards the ground. Now, the amazing thing here is we're also lengthening our hip flexors and our quads in the extended leg, working on the left side when it comes to external hip rotation with glute stretch, on the right side on our hip flexor flexibility and our anterior chain flexibility, which is an amazing combination. And what's even more amazing is that progressing from here for the next two levels will be very easy. Once you are fully comfortable in this position, level number two will get you down on your elbows. And once again, be careful not to have your spine in flexion, but actually get it at least into a neutral position or even the tiniest bit of spinal extension, so we can have the maximum amount of stretch. With our third and final beginner level, being able to get your body down all the way on the ground, face down all the way. And once again, we are actively pushing towards the ground and not just relaxing in this position. If you can activate the muscles in your posterior chain, this will be so much more effective. Not only because of reciprocal inhibition, which is going to force the antagonists of the muscles you are flexing to fully relax, getting you deeper into a stretching position, but also because we are activating the musculature and learning how to coordinate it at will. Because this moves us to our final ground level, and you're gonna notice a big jump in difficulty. That's why you should always be comfortable in the position before you can move on to the next level, because this one will be a dynamic pigeon pose. You're gonna get your upper body fully upright, drive your hip towards the ground, lengthen your quads and your hip flexors, get your hands behind your head. And now we're gonna start folding forward, actively driving our hips down and working our way lower and lower until our head is all the way down towards the ground. And then we want to actively, in a controlled fashion, start arching into complete spinal extension before we start folding forward once more, as low as you can. Drive your hips towards the ground and hold for a second or two. We have an amazing stretch in our entire anterior chain all the way down to our knee, especially on the right side, where we have this nice external hip rotation with posterior chain stretch on the left side. And that moves us away from the ground and into a front leg elevation. You can start in a standing position, place your foot right in front of your knee. You can grab on and slowly lower into this exact position. And once you're here, now we're gonna start driving the back knee all the way down until we touch down to the ground. Just being in this position is already the next level. We're gonna hold it statically. We have the maximum of external hip rotation with this elevation going on. Amazing stretch once again in our posterior chain here. And just moving to the next level is as easy as starting to fold forward in your hip. And just a handful of inches will make an absurd difference in the amount of stretch you have in the backside. So slow it down, take your time, and work on getting your upper body into full contact with your leg until you can arch over it completely with the back knee still in full contact with the ground, like so. Now, the first couple of seconds might be very uncomfortable. However, if you are feeling any pain, especially in any of your joints, that is a good sign to step back a little bit and release the tension before you try getting into the same position once again. And now comes a true challenge for this exercise. We have to be in ankle flexion with our back foot, with our toes on the ground. We're starting in this position and we're going to combine internal hip rotation like so with complete extension in our knee. The movement is pretty long, so once again, take your time while going through it. We're gonna bend forward, go into external hip rotation, lower down all the way, and the front leg lowers at the same time with the right leg touching down with both before we move on to the next repetition. This is going to strengthen your adductors, strengthen all the musculature surrounding your hip, because you do require a lot of control and a lot of strength to go through this movement, especially in all of those tiny muscles that usually don't get a lot of work. And this is going to be absolutely amazing for your hip mobility. A combination of internal and external hip rotation. And we have the complete anterior chain stretch, lengthening our hip flexors and our quads on this side, which means that once we start switching from one leg to the other, now we have worked on both sides with pretty much every single thing that your hips are responsible for. We've got extension, we've got flexion, internal and external hip rotation. Basically a complete lower body mobility guide with just one single exercise, if you can go through all of these levels step by step. With our second exercise for today being the asymmetrical dynamic pseudo back bridge. We have a complete anterior chain stretch going through our entire body all the way into our fingertips. We have internal and external rotation throughout our shoulders. We have massive mobility work around our hip joints, knees and ankles, pretty much working our entire body in one singular movement. And we're gonna take this one 2 steps further. Now for this exercise, our base movement is a cossack squat, which is basically this movement. And until you can master it, the rest will be somewhat of a challenge. So let's go through this step by step really rapidly. Level number 1, hip joint down to knee height. Level number 2, raise your heel, sit down all the way into a complete cossack stretch. Level number 3, hand behind the extended leg. And now we can start pushing our hips up. This is going to strengthen our posterior chain while stretching our anterior chain. And the more you can actively lengthen your body, the more stretch you will have surrounding your delts, your pecs, and your arm musculature. And of course, we want to work this on both sides dynamically. Sit down all the way, turn backwards, extend, reverse, and we're gonna fold forward between every single repetition, because this is going to lengthen our posterior chain between every single time we flex it. So we're combining strength with flexibility, switching, anterior chain stretch, posterior strength, and then anterior strength, posterior stretch, and this way, and that way. Now you're gonna ask me, how can we take this even a step further? Don't worry, stay with me, I'm here for you. Of course, we do that by adding a strength and coordination aspect to it. Thread the needle, go low to the ground, add a lot of shoulder strength and pectoral stretch before you reverse in a controlled fashion, all the way up, all the way down, and repeat on the other side. If you want, go as low as you can, adding this strength part and coordinated explosive reversal. Short breakdown, cossack stretch, our base movement form. We already mastered the pseudo asymmetrical back bridge, and all we need to do from here is switch hands. If your left hand is on the ground, we're gonna switch it up with the right one while driving your hips up, and we're gonna bring our leg through right here before we slowly pull that leg in. Switch hands once more, complete rotation in our lumbar spine, all the way back, all the way up, adding the quad strength movement. But hey, there is still another level left for the crazy people out there. For those of you who really want to work on the combination of strength, flexibility and coordination and add a lot of endurance, because look at me. That's from doing this. Final form, stay with me. This one is a tad bit complicated. We're gonna go into the cossack squat once more. We're once again gonna place our hand behind the extended leg, and now instead of moving up and exploding with one leg, we're gonna move up and cross the bent leg behind the extended leg, just like so. Once again, switch hands and now lower down to the ground and move to this posterior chain stretch with anterior chain strength. Reverse, all the way up, like so. Once again, back, cross over, switch hands, lower down to the ground and touch, stretching your posterior chain while strengthening your arms and opening up your chest and shoulders. Slow breakdown. We have our cossack stretch with external hip rotation, hand behind the extended leg, driving our hips up, crossing the bent leg behind the extended one, and rolling over our toes with complete spinal rotation, lowering down to the ground, grabbing those toesies before we reverse all the way up. All the way up. And that's it. It's only 2 exercises. Play around with them. See how they feel. Take your time whenever you start working on the next step. Slow it down. Enjoy yourself. If it is painful, that is a bad sign. No. Take a step back and relax into the level before that. And once you can do it without pain, as I said, discomfort, not only acceptable, but very likely, pain, not so good. Just keep in mind, if it's a static stretch, 30 seconds, absolutely perfect. And if it's a dynamic movement, you can do it for a complete minute. If you can do this 2 to 3 times a week, that would be absolutely amazing. And not only have you taken care of your entire body mobility, you've also worked on strength, coordination, and endurance all in one single workout. And you are welcome. You're totally welcome. So like the video, subscribe, and I will see you guys tomorrow, because we literally have new videos every single day. Captain Cairo, peace out.